Hey, my friends. Good to see you. Happy Thursday, the first Thursday in April. And welcome to Radiant Rap, where we talk about all things that help us to be radiant. Why? Because we were meant to shine. Radiant is the acronym for what I believe we need to do to be healthy and whole, like rest, activity awareness. Make a note of activity awareness. Activity awareness, that's where we're going to kind of hang our hat today. Rest, activity awareness, diet, introspection. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about introspection today too. Agua, note taking, and training. Those are the 7 things that I feel we need to do to be healthy and whole and to help us to shine like we were all meant to do. I want to thank all of you who have shared condolences and so forth for our family. Continue to pray for us. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. We still don't have things finalized yet for my brother-in-law, but we will. Um, so I know some of you are waiting for that information. And I also today want to give a shout out to the Honorable Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first African American woman to be on the Supreme Court. I watched those hearings a few weeks ago. I thought they were awful, awful, awful. The type of disrespect that she got, but she was so graceful, so eloquent. And yeah, today is the day where she was officially appointed. So shout out to the Honorable Ketanji Brown Jackson. Today, we're talking about changing your brain and body by thought alone. Changing your brain and body by thought alone. The 3 things out of all the Radiant acronym, all of those things fall under 3 categories: meals, movement, and mindset. And out of those 3, meals, movement, and mindset, they're all extremely important. However, I think that the greatest one of those is the mind, because you have to have a mindset that is going to be agreeable for eating better. It's going to be agreeable for moving better. It's going to be agreeable to be open to uh, making a change. We have free will. So no one can make us do anything. And that's why I think mindset is so important. And I often think, what if we spent as much time focusing on the things that are good, the things that are going right, as we spend on worrying and focusing on what will go wrong? What if we spent more time focusing on how things could go right? We have to think about what we're thinking about. It matters. And what I'm speaking of, there is scientific evidence that shows us that not only the way we think, it changes the patterns in our brain. So it's biological. It's not just, oh, I kind of think this. It's scientifically proven that the things that we think about can affect the wave patterns and the connections within our brain, and therefore affecting our body. So if we can begin to think in many cases differently, or think at all, because many of us, hey Tanya, how you doing, babe? Many of us have gone into autopilot. We're running these programs, and our bodies have pretty much taken over. We don't really have to think about a lot of what we're going to do during the day. And when we do start to think, say we open our eyes, first thing we start to think about is all the emails and having to face that boss and that conversation that we have to have. And we go immediately to all the things that are wrong or bad. And if we do that over and over again, it becomes a habit. When we go through the motions over and over again, the same, sleeping on the same side of the bed and making our coffee and drinking it in the same cup and getting in the car and driving the same path to work and so on throughout the day, after a while, you don't really have to think about it. You're on autopilot for the most part. So I don't want to say walking dead, but we're missing living when we behave that way. And often we focus again on the things that we don't want to manifest in our life. But what if it does? And if this goes wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong? So there's a process called mental rehearsal. I mean, it's known as a lot of different things, imagery, right? But by using it, you can change your brain and your body, focusing on what it is that you're thinking about, your inner world, tapping in instead of being so external and only focusing on what is happening around us. So that rehearsing can change our biological perspective and help to reshape our future, really. There are studies after studies after studies that show this. I know one study was with a bunch of researchers with the scientists basically from the University of Texas in San Antonio, the Cleveland Clinic, and the Kelser Foundation Research Center, which is in West Orange, New Jersey. They got a bunch of subjects, people together to visualize simply contracting their elbow flexor muscles. So contracting, the tricep muscles, and to focus how they could stretch it or contract it strong and as hard as possible. Intention, strong and as hard as possible for 15-minute sessions, 5 days a week for 12 weeks. So they took the individuals, and for one group, they requested that they use what is called external imagery, or a third person imagery, it's also known as. And this is when you kind of visualize seeing yourself on a movie screen. So it's like you looking at you, you're imagining that you're exercises, you're observing yourself in your mind doing the exercises in your head, right? Like you're watching a movie of yourself. So that was the first group. That's external or third person imagery. The second group, they requested them to do an internal imagery or a first person imagery. And in this case, you are imagining that, not that you're looking at yourself doing it, you're imagining that at that time you are doing the exercises and how you feel. So in your mind, you're imagining you're doing the exercises, thinking about how you feel. And then the third group, they didn't practice at all. Well, the group using the third party imagery, like they're looking at themselves in a movie, and the group that did nothing at all, there was no change. But the group who was doing the internal imagery, they had improvements in an increase in strength of 10%, over 10% actually, They got over 10% stronger, not by doing anything, but by thinking about doing it. And so this is an example of the muscle strength. There's several of them. I know there's another study. There's so many, but I just picked a couple. There's one from Ohio University where they actually wrapped the wrist in surgical cast. So they knew for a month, so that they knew that they could not move. And they did a similar study, and they had increases in strength just by doing that. So that's muscular. There's also been studies where, like this one study in particular, where uh, they had individuals have used this just their five fingers, one hand, and playing this um, just a little thing on the keyboard, right? But actually not using their hands, never touching the white ivory, never touching the keys, but in their mind rehearsing it. And when they were, after a week of doing that, sat in front of the piano, most of them were able to play it pretty well, not having actually practiced it, just visualizing it. And I know I did the same thing when I first, back in 2000, when I first decided that I wanted to get healthier and get back to where I think I was supposed to be growing up and into my high school years and beyond. And I had just gotten off track, and I said, well, I want to run. And I couldn't, but I'm gonna run from one light post to the next. And at that time, there was no way that I could even imagine that I would ever be able to do a 26-mile marathon. But at some point over that next 10 years, as I began to do 5Ks, 10Ks, one day I just thought, I think after doing a half marathon, I think I can do it. I want to try it. And I start visualizing myself actually completing a marathon. And I was able in 2010 right here in Tampa. It was the last time they did a full marathon in Tampa. I completed a full marathon. Not something that I really want to do again ever in my life, but I did want to do that. And I'm not saying that that's something that you aspire to, but what are your goals? What is it that you want to accomplish? Are you telling yourself it's too late? I can't do it. I don't have the skills. I don't have the resources. It's just the way I am. Is it attitude change? Is it an addiction that you want to improve? Is it a job change? Is it that you want to get more muscle tone? What is it that you're telling yourself, I would really love to do that, but I know I can't do it? And maybe if I really tried, I could, but it would be too much. What if you started to think differently? What if you started to spend time being still and coming out of that automatic program that you have going on and beginning to reprogram? Because what the studies are showing us is that if we practice this imagery, this rehearsing in our minds, and we practice it over and over again, over time, we can change the brain and body. When they do the brain scans, they can see a difference. Okay? What would happen if we weren't worrying so much about all the bad things that were happening, but spent more time focused in gratitude for the things that have happened and the things that we could do to, bring um, to be more fruitful and helpful in our families, in our jobs, in our communities? What if we did that? Well, here's a couple of things that I recommend that we do. One is that we, well, if it's me, this is what I'm going to say: ask God for guidance. If it's me, ask God for guidance. So pray for uh, enlightenment. Ask Him to help you, because God will. What do you want to call Him? The divine, okay, will help you. Two, get out of the autopilot. We have to wake up, which means that we're going to have to maybe be a little uncomfortable. That's the thing about running this autopilot program, right? We have to disrupt it. It's very uncomfortable if you're used to running the program over, sometimes for 10 years. Same thing. That's why COVID was so uncomfortable, because our whole habit of our daily routines was broken up. We had to do things different. Very uncomfortable for most people. I mean, and we say we want change, but even if there's a detour on your way to work and you have to go another route, that right there might just set you off, because you have to come out of your comfort zone and do something different. We need to, though. That's the only way that we can get out of that autopilot and begin to create another option, another way. So we do something different. Maybe start small. Thinking about what we're thinking about. So when we find ourselves complaining, when we find ourselves talking about other people, just being hateful on social media, a lot, that kind of, it's just, why? Starting to think about a different way of being, and playing that. How would that feel? How would it feel to, I don't know, whatever, fill in the blank you want to accomplish, whatever that, you would be a nicer person. Okay. Be more kind to yourself. Stop yelling all the time. Stop complaining all the time. And it's going to take work, but dare to do differently. So those are just a few suggestions that I have. Think about what you're thinking about. First, ask for help. Ask God to help you, and get out of the autopilot. So we have to, that's where in the RADIANT acronym, the first one's rest, the second one is activity awareness. Part of that is being aware of what it is we're doing, waking up, not just like sleeping, walking around, not really awake, not really having awareness of what it is that we're saying and doing. Get out of the autopilot. Do you all have any questions for me? Because I'm about to go. That's all I had for today. I'm challenging you to do that. And then also in the RADIANT acronym, the introspection, that's the other thing that we're very uncomfortable with, is being quiet, being still, to actually kind of erase some of those thoughts that, were the habitual things that we used to think. Oh, thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. You're so sweet. And hey, Steve, how are you? We may call these mindsets comfort zones, but the reality is we form mental absolutely, we form mental cages, and trap ourselves. Mm. Right, right. It is very chain forming. We're slaves to our bad habits, and even sometimes good ones. We can be sometimes too obsessed about, good things. Like, okay, if I don't get a chance to um, exercise because it's raining and I can't go outside today, then it's going to totally ruin my day, because that's our habit. That's not good either. That's not good either. We need to find the balance. Listen, I appreciate you all and I love you. I hope you understand that me coming to you and sharing with you is out of the love that I have for you. If you don't, oh well, because I love you and there's nothing you can do about it. You do, my friends, have greatness inside of you. What if we think about things and obsess about things that are good that are going on, that we have to be grateful going on, instead of obsessing about what bad could happen? How would the world be different? How would our lives be different? Yeah. Till next time. Bye for now.